My name's Daniel, I'm 29, and if you had asked me a year ago who my chosen family was, I would have said Ethan without hesitation. Ethan wasn't just my best friend, he was the brother I never had. We'd met in high school, survived college together, shared apartments, heartbreaks, road trips, and more late-night talks than I could count. If there was a big moment in my life, he was there. And I was always there for him too. So when he called me one night, practically buzzing through the phone, and said, "Man," she said, "yes, I'm getting married," I was grinning ear to ear. Of course I was going to be at that wedding. I figured I'd even be standing by his side as best man. After all, wasn't that what brothers, even chosen ones, were for? I didn't even question it when he said, "Don't worry about anything, you're on the guest list." Just the guest list. That should have been my first clue. But I brushed it off. Maybe he was overwhelmed, maybe the details weren't finalized yet. Ethan always needed time to sort things out. I told myself it didn't matter what label he gave me, I'd be there no matter what. The months flew by. Between fittings, invitations, and Ethan moving in with his fiancée, I didn't see him as much. But I chalked that up to normal pre-wedding chaos. When the invitation finally arrived in the mail, I held the envelope like it was something sacred. His wedding. Our moment. Except when I opened it, my name was printed on a single card, no +1, no mention of being part of the bridal party. Just a seat assignment. Row H, table 14. 14. Not even close to the front. I told myself not to overthink it. After all, weddings are complicated. Guest lists are a nightmare. Maybe it didn't mean anything. Still, a small knot of unease settled in my stomach. The day of the wedding came fast. I showed up early, wearing the suit Ethan had helped me pick out months before. The venue was breathtaking, an old estate with white columns, rose gardens, and strings of lights that made the place glow like a movie set. Guests were milling around, hugging, laughing, taking photos. I spotted Ethan across the lawn, his tux crisp, his grin wide. For a moment, my doubts melted. He looked so happy, and when he saw me, he waved. "Dan, you made it. Wouldn't miss it for the world," I said, clapping him on the shoulder. He was whisked away almost instantly by photographers, but at least I felt acknowledged. That feeling lasted about 5 minutes. I was standing by the drink table, trying not to look out of place, when I felt someone step beside me. It was Ethan's mother, a tall, severe woman who had never really warmed to me. She gave me a long, measuring look before leaning in close, her perfume sharp and cloying. "You do know," she said quietly, almost like she was sharing a secret, "you're just a placeholder guest, right? We had to fill the tables. Don't take it personally." The words hit like ice water down my spine. Placeholder. Not family. Not important. Just filler. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She was already smiling politely, nodding to another guest, as if she hadn't just gutted me with one sentence. And for the first time in my life, standing at my best friend's wedding, I felt like I didn't belong at all. I stood there, frozen, clutching my glass like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Her words kept replaying in my head, sharp and deliberate. "You're just a placeholder guest." It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. Calm, dismissive, as though my presence at her son's wedding was nothing more than a seating chart inconvenience. Like I wasn't Ethan's best friend, like I hadn't been there through every chapter of his life. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe she didn't mean it the way it sounded. Maybe it was just her way of making conversation. But the more I thought about it, the more bile rose in my throat. Placeholder. Filler. Background noise. I found my seat eventually. Table 14, tucked near the back, so far from the action it felt like I was watching through a window. Around me sat a mix of distant cousins, co-workers I didn't know, and a family friend who spent the entire evening talking about golf. No one even knew who I was, and when I said I was Ethan's best friend, more than one person raised an eyebrow like they didn't quite believe me. At one point, I caught Ethan's eye across the room. He was laughing, glowing, surrounded by people. He didn't notice me at the back, didn't see how his mother's words had sucked the air out of me. He just looked happy. And that's when the anger started mixing with something worse. Doubt. Had I overestimated our friendship? Was I really his best friend, or was that just how I saw it? Maybe in his world, I was already in the background. Dinner was served, and as I picked at the salmon, Ethan's mother glided past again, her hand resting lightly on a chair as she paused at our table. She smiled at the others, but when her eyes flicked toward me, her expression cooled. "You're comfortable here, aren't you?" she asked, too sweetly. "Yes," I managed, though my jaw tightened. "Good," she said, and with the faintest curl of her lips, she added, "It's important guests feel welcome, even the extra ones." The table laughed politely, as though she'd made a harmless joke. I forced a smile, but inside, I was crumbling. When she walked away, I excused myself and stepped outside into the garden. The cool night air hit me, and I finally let out the breath I'd been holding all evening. I wasn't imagining it. She didn't want me there. I stared at the glowing ballroom through the tall windows, watching Ethan twirl his bride on the dance floor, and I wondered, if his own mother thought I didn't belong, maybe Ethan did too. And for the first time in years, I started to question whether the bond one thought was unshakable was really just something I'd been holding onto alone. The night stretched on like a slow burn. I went back inside eventually, plastering on the kind of smile you wear when you don't want anyone to ask questions. Table 14 welcomed me back with polite nods, but no one really noticed I'd been gone. I sat, sipped my water, and tried to keep my head down. But Ethan's mother wasn't done. During the toasts, she took the microphone after Ethan's father spoke. Her voice carried through the hall, polished and commanding. She talked about love, about family, about how proud she was of her son and his new wife. The room clapped, glasses clinked, cameras flashed. And then, like a knife slipped between ribs, she added, "We are so grateful to everyone who came tonight, especially those closest to us. Family, dear friends, lifelong connections. And of course, those who filled in the rest of the seats to make this beautiful day complete." Her eyes found mine. Just for a second. A pointed, deliberate second. The audience laughed lightly, assuming it was a throwaway joke. But I knew better. That was for me. A public reminder that in her eyes, I was nothing but a warm body taking up space. I swallowed hard and forced a smile when a cousin beside me chuckled, muttering, "She's got a sharp sense of humor, doesn't she?" I didn't answer. After the speeches, the music kicked up. People rushed to the dance floor, couples spinning under the lights. I stayed seated, my chest heavy. Every laugh, every cheer, every clink of a glass sounded muffled, like I was underwater. Then Ethan appeared at my table, grinning, his tie already loosened. "Dan, why aren't you out there? Come on, man, it's a party." I tried to smile, but the words caught in my throat. "I'm good here," I said too quickly. He gave me a strange look. "You sure? You're usually the first one on the floor." I wanted to tell him everything right then, how his mother had cut me down twice already, how she'd made me feel like an intruder at his own wedding. But looking at his face, so lit up with joy, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the one to stain his happiness, not tonight. So I lied. Yeah, man. I'm just soaking it in. He clapped my shoulder and was gone again, swept up by guests who wanted his attention. And I sat there, rooted to the chair, a hollow ache spreading through my chest. But as the night wore on, I realized something. If I kept letting his mother humiliate me, I was the one giving her power. And for the first time all evening, a quiet ember of defiance sparked inside me. She wanted me to feel like a placeholder. But I wasn't going to leave this wedding invisible. Not anymore. That ember inside me grew hotter as the evening dragged on. I sat at my table, half listening to the music, watching as Ethan and his bride floated from group to group, all smiles and laughter. I wanted to be happy for him, I was happy for him, but I couldn't shake the sting of his mother's words. I thought about leaving early, slipping out before anyone noticed, avoiding more humiliations. But something in me rebelled at that idea. Why should I leave? Why should I slink off like an unwanted guest when I had been there for Ethan through everything? I had earned my place here, whether his mother acknowledged it or not. So I stayed. Later in the evening, as dessert was served, I excused myself to stretch my legs. I wandered toward the hallway that led to the restrooms, and that's when I heard voices, hushed but sharp. It was Ethan's mother. And she wasn't alone. I told him, she was saying, her voice laced with disdain. That boy doesn't understand boundaries. He thinks he's closer to Ethan than he really is. Honestly, it's pathetic. A woman I didn't recognize replied softly, he seems nice enough. Why not just let it be? Because, his mother snapped, this wedding is about family and appearances. I don't want photos cluttered with people who don't matter. He's here because Ethan insisted, but believe me, after tonight, that boy will learn his place. The words slammed into me harder than the first insult. She hadn't just been cruel in passing, she meant it. She didn't see me as Ethan's best friend. She didn't see me at all. My fists clenched at my sides, and for a moment, I considered barging in, calling her out right then and there. But I didn't. I backed away quietly, my heart pounding, my mind spinning. I returned to my table, but I didn't touch the cake in front of me. My appetite was gone. Instead, I stared at the glowing dance floor, at Ethan twirling his wife as cameras flashed. Did he know? Did he realize what his mother was saying about me? Did he agree with her? I'd never felt more torn, anger boiling on one side, loyalty on the other. But beneath it all, one thought cut the deepest. Maybe I wasn't just losing my place at this wedding. Maybe I was losing my best friend. The music thumped, laughter echoed, but all I heard were her words. He'll learn his place. They rattled inside me like broken glass. I stared at Ethan, surrounded by people who adored him. He looked untouchable, caught in a spotlight of joy. And yet, I couldn't shake the shadow hanging over me. His mother wasn't just being cruel. She was making sure I understood I didn't belong, not just tonight, but in his life going forward. The thought gutted me. I tried to distract myself, clinking glasses with the strangers at my table, nodding along to their conversations about work, vacations, investments I couldn't care less about. But inside, I was unraveling. Then came the family photo session. The DJ announced it, herding everyone toward the center of the ballroom. Parents, siblings, grandparents, cousins, all called forward for pictures. I stood back, smiling faintly, watching Ethan pose with his bride, his parents beaming beside them. Then Ethan spotted me in the crowd. "Dan, come on man, get in here," he called. I hesitated. My heart wanted to rush forward, to stand by his side where I felt I belonged. But his mother's eyes found me instantly, cold and sharp as knives. She shook her head almost imperceptibly. And just like that, I froze. Dan. Ethan called again, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. I forced a grin and waved him off. It's family, man. Go ahead. I shouted. He hesitated, looked like he wanted to argue, but the photographer was already posing them, adjusting shoulders, snapping shots. And I stayed where I was, outside the frame. The photos went on for what felt like forever. Every smile, every flash of the camera was another reminder. I wasn't part of the picture. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. By the time I slipped out to the patio for some air, my hands were trembling. I leaned against the railing, staring at the lights strung across the garden, and wondered if I should have just told Ethan everything. But how could I, without tainting his wedding day? That's when the patio door opened. I turned, expecting another guest looking for a smoke break. But it wasn't a stranger. It was Ethan's mother. And she was smiling. Her smile wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile someone wears when they know they've won. She closed the patio door softly behind her, her heels clicking against the stone as she walked toward me. "Enjoying yourself?" she asked, her tone sugary sweet. I forced a tight smile. "It's a beautiful wedding." "Yes, it is," she said, folding her hands in front of her. "Everything just as it should be. Family, friends, people who truly matter." Her eyes flicked over me, lingering for a moment before she added, "And then, there's you." The words landed like a slap, even though she hadn't raised her voice. I swallowed hard. I've been Ethan's best friend for over a decade. I'd say that counts. Her laugh was soft, dismissive. "Oh, darling, don't fool yourself. Ethan has many friends. College buddies, colleagues, groomsmen. You're here because he's sentimental, not because you belong. Weddings are about moving forward, not clinging to people from the past." My chest tightened. "Is that what you think I am? The past?" She tilted her head, considering me like I was some puzzle she'd already solved. "I think you're a placeholder, Daniel. Someone who was convenient until Ethan found the life he was meant for. And now," she gestured back toward the glowing ballroom, where Ethan and his bride were laughing with their guests. "Now he has everything he needs. This is his real family." I stared at her, stunned. I wanted to argue, to shout, to tell her she was wrong. But deep down, a small, terrified voice whispered, "What if she's right?" I clenched the railing so hard my knuckles went white. "You don't get to decide that," I said finally, my voice low but steady. "Ethan does." Her smile sharpened. "And yet, he hasn't exactly put you in the spotlight tonight, has he? Not a best man, not even in the family photos. Just another guest at table 14. Actions speak louder than words, don't they?" The door swung open behind us, and a burst of laughter spilled onto the patio. Ethan stepped out, looking between us curiously. "There you are," he said, walking toward me. "Dan, I've been looking all over." He stopped when he saw his mother. His brow furrowed. "What's going on?" I opened my mouth, my heart hammering in my chest. This was the moment. The truth was on the tip of my tongue. But his mother's eyes locked on mine, cool and daring, as if to say, "Go ahead. See if he believes you." Ethan looked between us, his easy grin fading into something wary. "Mom? Dan? What's happening out here?" I hesitated. My throat felt tight, my chest burning with everything I'd swallowed all night. I could either brush it off again, or I could finally say it. His mother got there first. She slipped her arm through his, smiling sweetly. "Oh, nothing at all, sweetheart. Daniel was just telling me how honored he feels to be here. Her words dripped with false kindness, but her eyes, those eyes were daring me to contradict her. I forced a laugh, though it sounded hollow even to me. Yeah, that's right. Ethan frowned. You sure? You look like you're about to pass out. I shook my head quickly. Just needed some air. That's all. He didn't look convinced, but before he could press further, his bride's voice floated through the open door. Ethan! Cake cutting. He glanced back, torn, then looked at me. You okay? Yeah. I lied again. Go. It's your night. He squeezed my shoulder, gave me that brotherly grin, and hurried back inside. His mother lingered a moment longer. That was wise, she murmured, her tone low and cutting. No need to ruin his big day with your insecurities. Then she turned, her heels clicking against the stone as she followed her son back inside. I was left alone on the patio, my pulse hammering, my body trembling with fury I could barely contain. I felt trapped, by loyalty, by doubt, by the weight of her words. Part of me wanted to storm out, disappear, let her win. But another part of me, the part that remembered every night Ethan and I swore we'd always have each other's backs, refused to give up that easily. When I walked back inside, the crowd was gathered around the cake. Cameras flashed, people cheered as Ethan and his bride cut the first slice. Everyone clapped, their voices blending into a joyful roar. And then I noticed it. Near the cake table, lined up neatly, were the seats for the important guests. The bridal party. The family. The ones who mattered. My seat, table 14, was way in the back. A graveyard of nobodies. That ember of defiance from earlier roared into something bigger. If Ethan's mother wanted me invisible, fine. But I wasn't going to let her erase me. Not tonight. Because I had an idea, one she definitely wouldn't see coming. The idea sparked as I stood at the edge of the crowd, watching Ethan and his bride laugh while smearing frosting on each other's noses. Everyone cheered, phones flashing, champagne bubbling. And me. I was done hiding at table 14. I slipped back to my seat, ignoring the half-eaten cake and the half-hearted chatter of my tablemates. Instead, I pulled out my phone. I had something Ethan's mother didn't know, a decade's worth of proof that I wasn't some placeholder. Photos. Hundreds of them. Ethan and me at 16, standing in the rain after winning a soccer game. Us in college, crammed into a dorm kitchen making burnt pancakes at 2 a.m. road trips, concerts, graduations, birthdays. Even the night he proposed, when he'd called me at midnight, voice shaking, asking if the ring looked right. I had been there. Every step. And now, I wasn't going to let myself be erased. I made my way toward the DJ booth, catching him between songs. Hey, I said, lowering my voice, can I request something special? For the groom. The DJ raised a brow. Depends. Bride approved. Trust me, I said with a steady smile, he'll love it. A few minutes later, as the music shifted, the DJ's voice boomed, Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a little surprise for the groom tonight. A walk down memory lane. The screen behind the dance floor lit up. At first, it was just a simple slideshow, baby pictures of Ethan, old family photos. The ones his parents had supplied. But then my photos appeared. Ethan and me, age 17, covered in mud from a camping trip gone wrong. Ethan and me at 21, arms around each other at graduation. Ethan and me on New Year's Eve, grinning like idiots under cheap fireworks. The crowd laughed, clapped, cheered. Ethan turned, his jaw dropping, eyes wide as each memory flashed across the screen. He looked around until he spotted me at the back of the room. Our eyes met, and in that instant, I saw it: recognition, gratitude, brotherhood. But just as quickly, I felt another gaze burning into me. His mother. Her smile was gone. Her eyes were daggers. She knew I had just taken back the one thing she'd been trying to strip from me all night: my place in Ethan's story. The ballroom erupted with laughter and cheers as the photos kept rolling. Ethan doubled over, clutching his stomach at the sight of our college Halloween costumes, him as a pirate, me in a ridiculous cardboard robot suit. His bride giggled at the shot of him, sunburned and scowling, while I held up a fish he'd sworn was too big to catch. People were pointing, clapping, nudging each other. "These two go way back," someone said near the front. Another guest muttered, "That's real friendship." I could feel my chest tighten, not with humiliation this time, but with pride. For once, the spotlight wasn't just on Ethan. It was on us. Then came the last photo. It was from the night before Ethan proposed, him holding the ring box, grinning nervously, me standing beside him giving a thumbs up. The crowd exploded. Ethan's bride even wiped a tear, smiling wide as she leaned against him. The DJ cued the music back up, but Ethan didn't join the dance floor. He walked straight through the crowd toward me, weaving past tables until he was standing right in front of me. "Dan," he said, shaking his head, eyes shining. That was perfect." He pulled me into a hug so tight I almost couldn't breathe. "You're my brother. Always have been." The crowd clapped again, some even whistled. For a moment, I felt like I belonged. Really, truly belonged. Until she appeared. Ethan's mother. Her smile was brittle, her voice honeyed poison. "That was a lovely little sideshow," she said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Though perhaps not the most appropriate time to make the evening about yourself, Daniel." The air shifted. Conversations dimmed. Guests glanced between us, sensing the tension. Ethan stiffened, releasing me from the hug. "Mom," he said slowly, "what's that supposed to mean?" She waved a hand delicately. "Nothing, dear. Only that some people don't know when to step back and let family take the stage." Her eyes locked on mine, sharp and unyielding. She wanted me humiliated. She wanted me silent. But I wasn't silent anymore. "Funny," I said, my voice carrying farther than I expected. "Because for someone who talks so much about family, you've gone out of your way all night to make sure I knew I wasn't part of it." The room froze. Forks clinked softly onto plates. Ethan turned to his mother, stunned. And for the first time all evening, she didn't have a ready smile. Ethan's mother's lips parted, but no words came out. The ballroom was dead silent, every guest hanging on the tension between us. My heart pounded, but I didn't back down. "You told me I was just a placeholder guest," I said, my voice steady even as my hands shook. "You made it clear you didn't want me here. But I was here, every step of Ethan's life. Every moment that shaped him. And I won't let you erase that." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ethan blinked, his gaze darting between us. "Wait. Mom, you said that to him." Her face tightened. "Ethan, don't be ridiculous. He's clearly exaggerating. Weddings make people emotional." "Don't," I cut in. "Don't lie. You told me I didn't belong. You said I was the past. That I was nothing more than filler at your son's wedding." The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan's bride shifted uncomfortably. A few guests whispered, others stared openly. Finally, Ethan spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the room. "Dan's not filler. He's my brother. Always has been. Always will be. His mother flinched like he'd struck her. Ethan. No, his voice sharpened. You don't get to decide who matters in my life. You don't get to humiliate the person who stood by me longer than anyone here. If you can't respect him, then you're the one who doesn't belong tonight. The gasp that followed was audible. His mother's face went pale, her jaw tightening. For the first time all evening, she looked small, cornered. Ethan turned back to me, his hand gripping my shoulder. I'm sorry, he said, his eyes fierce and unwavering. For everything she said. For not noticing sooner. You're not a placeholder, Dan. You're family. Something inside me cracked, but it wasn't pain this time. It was relief. It was belonging. The DJ, sensing the tension needed breaking, turned the music back on. Slowly, chatter picked up again. Guests clapped me on the back, some offering quick words of support as they moved past. The night's spell of humiliation had broken, and this time, I wasn't invisible. Ethan's mother disappeared for the rest of the evening, slipping into the background like a shadow retreating from the light. And as the party carried on, Ethan and I stood side by side, laughing, toasting, sharing the night like we always had. For the first time that evening, I wasn't wondering if I belonged. I knew. Because placeholders fade away. But real family, chosen or not, stays in the picture forever.